I'm pleased to say, actually, that I am joined today by one of my bestest friends in the world. I love her. She's probably got the biggest brain in the business and full of honesty, truth bombs. And frankly, most people are scared of her, and they should be. It is, of course, Isabel Oakeshott.
Sound like the Taylor Swift song. Who's afraid of little old me? Well, you should be.
But it's true. I mean, you know, you take people down, and I love you for it. And you look like butter wouldn't melt either. You just,
well, that makes two of us.
Exactly.
So what are we talking about tonight then?
We're talking about so many things. I mean, where do we start? Let's start with the whole sort of, the big story today, which is the spiralling worklessness amongst British-born adults. I mean, look, this has been going on forever. And I don't know, where is the problem with this? Is it that work doesn't pay enough? Is it that benefits pay too much? Is it that these days you go to a doctor and they only have 5 minutes with you and you say, I'm depressed or my back hurts or something, and they sign you off, and that we're just losing that sort of toughness in society?
I think it's all of those things, isn't it? I mean, certainly doctors have never been particularly comfortable, a word I actually hate, but anyway, doctors have never been very comfortable with being the arbiters of this. They see their job, quite understandably, as helping people get better, not deciding and being judge and jury as to whether they are too sick to work. And it's a role that has fallen upon them. And I think you're right that, you know, many a time they've only got a few minutes to make a swift judgment and get on to the next patient, so they may sign people off when perhaps that's not necessarily ultimately in that person's best interest. But I think at the heart of this is a lack of any conditionality. You know, we give out benefits without any conditions attached, and that's putting it in a rather simplistic fashion, because of course some people do have some conditions. You've got to turn up and go through the motions every few months of appearing at some meeting where you say, well, I've done this and that to try and find a job. When I talk about conditionality, what I mean is actually giving something back while you're supposedly looking for a job. I do not believe in people taking the state's money, public money, taxpayers' money, to basically be at home indefinitely, unless they are truly, truly, truly sick. And of course, in those cases, absolutely a civilised society looks after those people.
Yeah, I mean, the other strange thing about all of these people sitting at home unable to work because of, say, perhaps a physical condition, there are so many working from home jobs now.
Yeah.
Half the things advertised online you can do from home, so I kind of think that shouldn't preclude you. When it comes to mental health, the problem with this, of course, is there's no external symptoms, really.
Yes.
You can't sort of point at a big boil and say, oh, look, my brain hurts. And I think that a lot of people know how to work that system. Not that when people do have serious mental health issues, it shouldn't be you know, taken seriously. But I think as well, you know, the dignity of work, the preoccupation of work is very good for mental health, quite frankly.
Course, yeah.
When I sit at home by myself, I go balmy.
Yes, absolutely. You need a structure in your day, you need goals, and actually company is really important, which is why I actually don't think that necessarily the work from home thing is particularly good for mental health. So we're in a kind of vicious circle there, aren't we? So, look, whatever we're doing, we're not getting it right, are we? And it doesn't help that whenever anyone suggests that you might give something back, whether it's, I don't know, repainting a wall or going to help in a charity shop or whatever it may be, you know, everybody shrieks that's against their human rights and that's inhumane, and aren't you nasty and all of that. It's none of those things. No. In fact, it's in many ways the most supportive thing that you could do for somebody. Give them some self-esteem, because there's nothing that's more rotting of the self-esteem to sit at home feeling that you're playing no functioning part in society, you're not contributing anything, and no one knows where you are or cares.
Right. I mean, a lot of councils are completely strapped for cash. They can't afford to do the basic thing, you know, mow the grass verges or wipe up the graffiti.
So people could do that,
if you're physically fit and you're sitting at home, then crack on and do those things. Do you know, I've got a thought as well. It seems to me in the 21st century, sitting at home is far easier than it used to be in the 20th century. What with all the television channels, the Netflix, the mobile phones,
you don't get as bored
5G.
as you should do.
Right, if you sat at home in 1960, you'd have to stare at a blimmin' wall for 8 hours, whereas now you can, you know, binge watch a TV series, you know, chat on WhatsApp to all your friends, scroll. I mean, some people, that's like an ideal day. That's the problem.
Maybe you should have some kind of points-based system for benefits, and maybe it should be that if you contribute certain things, then you get more benefits in some way. I don't know. There ought to be a more sophisticated system that that rewards people who give something back, rather than just continually dish out money for nothing. And it isn't really you know, the state paying, it's every taxpayer, and this actually is robbing money from the things that we all use, like the NHS.
And it's funny because people now talk about, oh, you know, but people don't really want to do these jobs. They don't want to work on a product.
They just have to. Who are all these people who are too posh to pick fruit? I'm not.
Right. They don't, you know, they don't want to work at the production line. They don't want to do anything that might be monotonous or labour intensive. My grandparents used to work 3 jobs each. 3 jobs each.
I mean, look, we all have to do things we don't want to. I mean, you know, we're lucky enough to have amazing jobs which we find exciting and interesting. But, you know, not all jobs, all one's career have been like that. Do you remember? Let me share with you one of the lowest points of my journalistic experience and career. At one point, although I was, you know, I have a very good degree and many other qualifications, my actual job was measuring the sequencing of traffic lights in London. I had to sit by traffic lights and say how many seconds is it on red, how many seconds is it on yellow, and how many is it on green. And there was a purpose to this, which was to do with whether or not the London authorities at the time were basically manipulating the traffic light sequencing to make London more congested. But it was a low point, let me tell you, you know, standing there by the traffic lights with my first class honours degree, you know, measuring whether the yellow light was on for longer or shorter. But look, we've all got to suck it up.
Yeah, no, indeed. I had a job once when I went to the BBC, and it was on this programme called X-Ray, which is the BBC's version of Watchdog. And I had to go in at 9 in the morning, and my job was listening to the X-Ray answer machine until 5 in the evening, which was basically, you know, Mrs. Jones calling up, moaning about, you know, British Gas or something.
Did you have to take notes from it all?
I had to take notes, and well, that was about it. Because at the BBC, it was sort of like a production line of nonsense. They had 12 people doing the job of one person, essentially. Someone's just messaged me going, Alex, you work 4 hours a day. Hold on.
It just doesn't work like that, though, does it, people?
You know,
I mean, you actually have to do some preparation.
Let's do reality check on all of this. I wish I worked 4 hours a day. What do they think I am? Some sort of pre-programmed computer that the stories just sort of, I don't know, via magic osmosis enter in my head with all of the information, that the show just builds itself.
I mean, it was
the
a bit
stories
like
on the show, the guests.
When I worked on the Sunday Times, people used to think, does that mean you only work on Sundays? You know, well, no, you know, it's the entire week before, and actually your worst days are Friday night and Friday and Saturday, basically, when everyone else is having a good time. So this isn't Alex and Oakeshott's little get out their little violins for each other, because we know we're lucky and all of that. The point of this discussion is that we all folks have to do a few things, some more than others, that we don't fancy doing. Right. And that is the only way that you're ever going to get anywhere.
Right, exactly. And that's how I got here. I've done all sorts of rubbish things in the past, and some really good things as well. If only I could not work sometimes. That's the problem with this profession. It doesn't actually ever stop. You know, you sort of wake up in the morning, you listen to all the various news channels, you read through all the newspapers, you're then speaking with your production team, and then you're going back and reading even more newspapers, then you're doing some research,
and that's
then
not
guess what, there's
necessarily
news
healthy,
later.
Actually, it's a very addictive industry, I think, and I think a lot of our listeners are probably quite addicted to the news cycle as well. And why? Because we actually care. You know, because it's so hard. I know I have got a lovely friend who is just totally disengaged from it all. And I think in some ways he's happier as a result. He just says, it's not my path, and he lets it all float over him. He's supposed to say he's not one of our listeners, because I think that our listeners are truly engaged in what is going on. And I always say about politics, you know, if you're not interested in it, that means you can only ever be a passenger in the car. Right. If you want to drive the car, or at least know where the car's going, then you've got to be interested.
You've got to be interested. Every now and then, though, you just have to get away. Like this weekend, I'm off.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like going to try and turn off the phone.
Get off the social media platforms, because they're poisonous, aren't they?
They're absolutely poisonous.
The stuff people say.
What I need to do right now is just say, like, what is going on? Because all week I've been wanting to phone you. I've been wanting to just reach out to anybody who's in this profession and say, are you really freaked out by what's happening? I mean, I'm speaking to various other people people and we're sharing information. And so today we're going to be talking about a story later, which is about, it was in the Times, and it's about the statistics of women who are reporting sexual assault and harassment on transport. And it's gone up by 50% in 2 years, right? And so, clearly that is a story that I'm like, boom, I'm going to be all over that. But the thing I want to talk to you about is I read the story, and afterwards I wanted to see, it was on the Times, wanted to see what people were saying about it. And you'd imagine most people who are commenting on a Times story, they have to be subscribers. They part with a fair amount of cash. That ain't a cheap subscription. So they're probably sort of
well
quite...
worth it, though, since it's a paper produced in this fine building.
Brilliant paper. They have to be on top of, they're probably people on top of things in their daily life, and you wouldn't think they're mad conspiracy theorists.
No, not at all. Right.
So, looking at the comments underneath, the amount of them that were just censored, bam, 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 you can't say that. But you could see the replies to them indicating the sort of questions people might have been asking. I've noticed the Daily Mail reads more like the Guardian these days. That I had someone message me today, who I've known for a long time, who is in the legal profession, who after work had turned up at a protest by 10 Downing Street in suit and tie, a legal expert, like a legal professional, got arrested and held in a police station for 20 hours without charge, and has been told he's got to go back in October. There's a real feeling right now that there's something kind of oppressive happening that is really beyond the norm.
This is really sinister.
Right.
This is really, really sinister. I've written about it in the Telegraph today, about the treatment of a particular lady called Bernadette Spopforth. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah. That's
Some
awful.
people may have
seen
that a 55-year-old woman was arrested over something that she posted on social media, which turned out to be inaccurate. Now, it's important to note that in her message on social media, she said, "if this is true." So she put in a note of caution. In no way was she encouraging anybody to go out and riot.
Yes, she didn't say go attack
nor
this,
was it malicious or malign or any of these things. She's not been charged. I very much hope she won't be. But she was held in a police cell for some 36 hours on the basis of a 1 or 2 sentence tweet, which it would be very hard to demonstrate actually encouraged anybody to do anything unlawful. Governments that go about shooting the messenger in this way are not secure governments. They are not strong and stable governments, and they are not governments of democracies. This is a kind of modern-day McCarthyism, pursuing, albeit a different side of politics. McCarthyism was a series of witch hunts in the 50s in America against communism. The whole Reds under the bed thing. Now the machinery of the state appears to be being harnessed to hunt down and smoke out anyone who might, let's say, communicate uncomfortable information.
Right.
And what really worries me here is, let's be open about what's being suppressed here. What the government does not want us talking about is any link between mass uncontrolled immigration and violent crime. That's what they are terrified of that.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid that in some cases it is very clear that perpetrators of violent crime have only arrived in this country quite recently, and they may have traumatic backgrounds, or who knows where they've come from. Truthfully, who knows where they've come from in some cases. That is not to say that no British people do awful things. Of course we're not saying that. But it's entirely fair to ask what the background is of anyone who commits a horrific, violent stabbing or rape or murder or whatever it may be. It's okay to ask those questions, because if we don't ask those questions, not about race, it's about what is the background of somebody who has done this terrible thing to an innocent person. And unless we know about their story, how can we possibly learn from it? That's it, folks. And there's no racism here.
And you would think we need to understand trends, because, I've spoken about this plenty of times before, particularly when it comes to certain crimes against women, that there are trends in other countries and they publish statistics and they talk about it, and perhaps now they can have some sort of policy that will start tackling it. And we're not doing that here. It's going in the opposite direction. I'm looking forward to my collar being felt, quite frankly.
Well, I think, look, you and I both, look, I haven't spoken about this publicly, but I've now been issued with a panic button.
Right.
As a result of things that have been written about me. I have never condoned rioting. I have never said rioting or any violence is okay, and I am certainly not anti-Islamic. As you know, I spend a lot of time in the Middle East.
Yeah.
I am a friend.
You're like the Dubai tourist board. You love it.
So look, you know, this has consequences for those of us who are being smeared and vilified. It has real consequences.
It does.
I now sleep with a wretched button thing by my bed that flashes during the night.
I've had to have a huge security consultation when people turned up outside Reform UK, Nazi scum off our streets, and we saw videos of you know, young men with weapons from other communities who are out there to defend themselves. And when certain Twitter accounts who might speak to those people are pointing the finger at you or me or whoever, it puts us very much in the crosshairs, and it's frankly reckless. But the rabid salivation of the other side now, you know, they've gone mad, haven't they? It's like the Stasi.
It is absolutely obscene.
Constantly, they put comments with me. You know, I just say something on Twitter like, "Met Police, have you seen this?" And then they're doing the like, "So when's Douglas Murray going to get arrested?" And it's mad. And then they're all going after Elon Musk, right? This is the hilarious bit, right? You've got that Thierry Breton, whatever he's called, the Information Commissioner. That doesn't sound like weird and sinister. From the EU, so issuing that letter to Elon Musk saying, if you interview Donald Trump, we might, you know, pull the plug on you in Europe. And then they had to wade in and basically say, oh no, he just does his own thing, nothing to do with us. And I'm like, you really think you can go after Elon Musk when he's the one who's making the satellite communications, the electric vehicles?
But this is coming from a position of weakness, isn't it? If you're confident in your arguments, if you're confident in your position, you don't need to persecute people to win them over. You don't need to just present your arguments. But this is coming from a government that quite evidently has no solutions to the crisis that we're in. And make no mistake, the last few weeks have been an utter crisis. They have projected a truly terrible image of our country around the world.
Oh, my goodness,
we have seen appalling behaviour from all sorts of groups of people. It does feel very strange that only certain cohort of people are being paraded and made an example of.
In show trials, essentially.
So this is all wrong. You know, I'm, as said on previous shows today on Talk, I'm actually delighted that our justice system can be so efficient.
Great,
but I want it to be even-handed. And there are plenty of people who have done terrible things lately who are not in prison, and now there are people who have done objectively less terrible things. I do think that, you know, tweeting inappropriate or rabble-rousing things is nobody's idea of sensible, but it is not equivalent to being a hit-and-run killer or being a rapist or many of the other things.
And where is the litany? Where is the litany of radical imams, you know, being shown in the judification of our justice system? Do you know what I mean? Because we've done reports on that on this station, where we have actually pointed out to police, look at these, you know, people and the sermons they're saying and they're posting on YouTube. And we've seen the things that people have been saying in pro-Palestine protests, which they then dress up as, oh, well, it's got a, you know, double meaning. It's and it's like, no, it doesn't. You know it doesn't. And it's, well, you know, frankly, it is sinister. And actually, most of the world are looking at it going, this is sinister.
It is sinister. You know, I think it projects a terrible image of this government. This is a government that has no answers. It is also a government that must know that it cannot stop the boats on the basis of the policies that it's set out. We know this, you know, however many hundreds of people came over yesterday alone. The government has been in power now for a couple of months. They had 18 months or so to get their ideas together, to have a plan in place to stop the boats, and so far the boats continue to come. We also know that they have done nothing except reverse policies that might possibly have reduced legal immigration. So immigration is going to continue to be a complete disaster for this country because of the number of people. Sheer numbers, folks. This is not about nationalities. It is about sheer numbers. The country's infrastructure can't take it. Labour has no answer, so what do? They go around shooting the messenger.
Right. Let's take a break now. I mean, God, we've got another sort of 40 minutes to keep gassing about everything going on, because like I said, I've been wanting to quit so many times over the last week, and just, open that bottle of wine we've got, that really nice one, and get stuck into it before we have to go to prisoner cell block H or whatever it's going to be.